in all these organizations, materials management plays a very important role. So you must already be aware how every that every organization needs. Firstly, people, and second, money, and then the materials. Okay, so you must be already aware of this, right? Like, what does an organization need? Like, not one particular kind, but almost every organization. What do this organization need? Firstly, it needs people. People is nothing but the human resource, which is people. And second, it needs money. Any kind of organization needs money, which is the financial resource. So firstly, organization needs people, which is human resource, and any organization needs money, which is the financial resource. And other than these two, it also needs material resources. Like every organization needs certain raw materials, certain tools, etc. And managing of these materials, it is just as important as the money and the people. Okay, so every organization needs people, money, and material. Just how it is important for any organization, to manage its people and to manage its finances, it is equally important to manage its material. And why is that? Why is this material important, just like the people and the money? Simple, because without material, production cannot happen. For example, if there is a textile factory, what does it need other than money and people? For the textile factory, it also needs the raw material, which is cotton. So without cotton, it wouldn't be a textile industry or a textile factory. And let's take another example. For example, if there's a furniture factory, and for furniture factory, it also has money, it also has people. Other than money and people, what is the other important thing, which is wood? Furniture cannot be made without wood. Okay. And let's take a car company. And the car company, other than people and the money, it needs steel, it needs rubber, and it needs other parts. Okay. And if these materials are not available in those factories, the production will stop. It's as simple as that. You can understand how important these materials are in any organization. Now let's think it this way. For example, if there is a company, the company has workers and the money, but they don't have materials. So without material, can it produce anything? Just because they have people, just because they have money, doesn't mean they can produce anything. Okay, they need that material, and the material management is very important. That's what we will be discussing in this unit. So in any industry, like in most industries, what is the main activity of any industry? It is simple. It is to convert raw materials into finished goods. For example, if there is this raw material cotton, it will be it will be turned into clothes. And if they have wood, it will be turned into the furniture. If they have iron, it will be turned into some kind of machines. So the main activity of most of the industries is converting raw materials like cotton, wood, and iron into finished goods, which like clothes, furniture, and machines. So materials, they are basically the basic foundation of production. And if materials are not managed properly, many problems can happen. For example, factories itself may stop working. Without raw material, what would the factories do? Just with the people and the money. What is their objective? What will they even do? What will these people even do in an organization if they don't have the material to work with? So any organization needs a certain kind of raw material. And without it, factories will ultimately, they will stop working. What are they even working on without raw materials? And also the production may also slow down, and the costs may increase and the profits may decrease. Okay. So if there is not a lot of production, and if they have limited, items, limited finished goods, obviously the price will increase. And obviously if they are selling lesser products, it will also result in, making lesser profits. They won't be having any profits. And as a result, some factories will even be shut down because they run out of materials. Okay, so these are some problems that can occur without proper materials management. Firstly, factories may stop working. Second, production may slow down. Third, costs may increase. And fourth and lastly, profits may decrease. Okay, and some factories may eventually shut down because they ran out of materials. These good material management, it also focuses on some other things like finding cheaper material, finding better supplies, and reducing the overall cost. And this will ultimately help the company to reduce its expenses and increase the profit. Obviously, any organization, its ultimate goal is to like make profit. Okay, that is why it is important, necessary to find cheaper materials, find better suppliers, and reducing the overall cost. And this will result in reduced expenses and increased profits. So now let's understand the concept of materials management. So the materials management is generally considered as subsystem of management. That means it is a part of the larger management system. It is made up of smaller activities like planning, purchasing, storing, and controlling. Okay, so the materials management is considered as a part of the larger management system. It is made up of different smaller activities like planning, purchasing, storing, and controlling. Material management, it does not create new function. It groups together all activities related to materials under one system. So basically these activities used to happen separately before. But after World War II, it was realized that all material related activities should be managed together because it improves the coordination that is going to happen with that work in order to fulfill the finished product. It also improves the efficiency and control. So we also call materials management as logistics management. So especially in private companies, people use this term as the logistics. Now let's look into the definition of materials management. Different experts have given different definition, but the meaning is almost the same. So materials management means planning, controlling, and coordinating all activities related to materials from the beginning to the end of the production. So the simple definition is that planning, controlling, and coordinating all activities related to materials from the beginning to the end of the production. So whatever the planning is happening, whatever the controlling or coordination that is happening, which is related to these materials, that is from the starting of the production to the end of the production, that whole process we call it as materials management. It is the simplest definition we can understand. So the process basically, starts from deciding what materials are needed. In any organization, it basically starts at what are the materials that are needed, okay? And how much of that material do we need? What is the quantity that we need? And what quality is needed? This is how basically, the process starts. Process of production starts. First, deciding what materials are needed, deciding how much is needed, deciding what quality is needed. Okay, this is how basically it starts. Materials management starts. And it ends with supplying materials for production and meeting customer demand. Okay, so the material management process, it ends with supplying materials for production and obviously meeting customer demand. So some of the important activities included are storage, supply, and quality maintenance. These are some important activities which are included in the materials management, which is storage, supply, and quality maintenance. It also deals with controlling the flow of materials depending on the demand of the material, the price of the material, availability, and quality. So we have two types of materials, which is direct. We have direct materials and indirect materials. These are the two types of material. So the direct materials, they are used directly in the production, like cotton and wood. And the indirect materials, they are used as the support. For example, spare parts and tools. Okay, so the direct materials, we are using it directly to the production. And the indirect materials, we are using them as support. Now let's look into the scope of materials management. So what are all the areas which are covered under the materials management? That is nothing but the scope, the extent, okay? The extent of materials management is nothing but scope. So it means what are all the areas that are covered under the materials management. So basically different experts have different views about the scope of materials management. But generally it includes planning, control, procurement, storage, and distribution. Now let's look into this one by one. First, the materials planning or the planning. This is basically the first step. Here the organization plans present needs and future needs. So in first step, the organization is planning the present needs and the future needs. It ensures no shortage and no wastage. For example, a factory plans how much raw materials is needed for the next month. Okay. And the second one is the materials control. This focuses on proper usage of materials. So basically, it ensures that there was no misuse of materials that happened, or if there was no wastage of materials that has happened. And whatever the material they have, it is used for its its maximum efficiency. That is nothing but the materials control. Materials control means properly using materials. Okay, it's the proper usage of materials, to not misuse the material, to not waste the material, and to bring out the maximum efficiency from those materials. This is the materials control. Now the third one is the procurement. Procurement is nothing but the purchasing materials. Okay. For example, purchase the material at the low cost, purchase the material at the right time, and buy it from the right supplier. These are some things which are considered under the procurement. Like procurement means purchasing material. Means to purchase the material at the lowest cost and to purchase purchase it at the right time and to buy from the right. Now let's look into the storage. Not all the goods are used immediately, so they must be stored properly. Otherwise, they may get damaged and they may lose the quality. Okay, so the storage is very important. It is very important to store the materials properly. If the materials is damaged or if they lose quality, and then it is nothing but the material wastage, which we discussed in the previous slide. In procurement, we have talked, how it is important to buy the material at the low cost, buying it at right time and from the right supplier. Not this, the materials controls. In material controls, we discussed that there should not be any misuse or the wastage. We need to, you know, so as we discussed, to proper, the materials wastage. Just very important. Avoid wastage in order to, avoid the mix from getting damaged or from losing quality. If the material either loses its quality or gets damaged, it will result in wastage, which is not good because the organizations spend a lot of money in order to buy the raw materials. And if they are not taking a proper care of, in the storage part, they will all be wasted, which is nothing but the loss to the organization. So now let's look into the distribution. Finally, goods must reach consumers at the right time. So there should not be any shortages and there should not be any excess also. These goods must be distributed in the public at the right time, with the right quantity. They should not have too much, they should not produce too many materials or they should not produce too little final goods. So there, it means there should not be any shortage or no excess. The finished goods must be produced at the right time in the right amount. Now let's understand the objectives of material management. So some of the general objectives are to purchase materials at low cost, like we discussed earlier, to ensure availability, to maintain quality, and to maintain the inventory. There are 6 main primary objectives. First is reduce cost. So purchasing affects product cost directly. For example, low material cost is equal to higher profit. If the organizations are spending less money, for buying the material, obviously they would be making higher profit. Okay, so that is how you reduce cost. And the second primary objective is the inventory management. Inventory management means to ensure the right quantity is maintained and right quality is also maintained in order to avoid the excess storage. Okay, that is nothing but inventory management. And then we have continuity of supply. Production should not stop. Even a small delay, it can increase the cost. So there should be continuity of supply. Production should keep happening always. Because if there is a delay in production, it will ultimately increase the cost. And then fourthly, quality control. Good quality materials is equal to good quality products. Okay, and the fifth is supplier relationship. Also, maintaining good relations with suppliers is necessary because it helps in better service and quick supply. So that is why it is necessary to maintain good relations with suppliers. And sixth primary objective is the department efficiency. to maintain proper records and systems. Okay, so that it will be easier to audit. Now let's look into the secondary objectives. These secondary objectives are those which support the primary objectives. For example, use of new materials, cost review, standardization, product improvement, coordination with departments, and market forecasting. These are some secondary objectives. And now let's discuss the functions. So one of the first functions is production and materials cost. And the second function is purchasing. Purchasing means to buy materials, which includes supplier selection, negotiation, and order placement. And the third function is stores. Stores means it manages office and maintenance of materials. And some other functions include traffic, means handles transportation, and materials handling, which means most materials within the organization, and receiving means checks and verifies incoming material. And lastly, we have shipping. Shipping means handling packaging and delivery of final goods. So today, businesses use computers in inventory, accounting, and payroll. So what are the benefits of IT? IT saves time, reduces risk, improves efficiency. Today's organizations are flexible, technology driven, and teams use shared data to improve decisions and increase productivity. So to summarize, materials management is planning, controlling, and using materials efficiently. It helps organizations reduce the cost, improve production, increase profit. Without proper materials management, no organization can function effectively. So let's look into Unit 9. Means data to state a hospital led medicine. Sorry, there was some network issue. I'll start with Unit 9 again. So the Unit 9 is about procurement, storage, and distribution. So the materials management is the process of supplying goods and services to an organization. So it means getting the right material in the safe like discrete 8. An organization needs material management, it's nice things. One object are procurement, storage, and distribution. So let's discuss this one by one in this unit. Let's first understand what is procurement. Like I said before, or obtaining goods and services from outside sources. So it is basically the first and most important stage of materials management. Usually this work is done by the purchase department. For example, they arrange raw materials, spare parts, and services. And why is this procurement important? Why is this procurement important? Because 60 to 70% of the total cost of the product is spent on the materials. Remaining charges will just be on the making. Okay. So the most of the majority of the cost is spent on the materials itself. So if purchasing is not done properly, the cost will eventually increase and the quality will decrease. It will also result in a reduction in the profits. That is why procurement must ensure the right quality, right quantity, right price, and right time. Also remember, purchasing is it's just not buying. Okay, it's not blindly going and buying. That is not purchasing. It includes proper research. In order to buy something, we need to do a proper research of that thing, of that material, in order to pick the best material with right quality and with the least price. So the purchasing is not just buying, it includes research, it includes supplier selection. After doing research, you will find so many suppliers and you can come to a conclusion from where to buy. You will pick a supplier. So it includes research, supplier selection, inspection, follow-up, and storage coordination as well. So procurement is basically a complete system. It's not just simply an activity of buying. Okay. So the procurement by public and private firms. Now let us compare procurement in public and private firms. In private firms, there is more freedom and the private firm's main goal is profit. Whereas in public firms, they have very strict rules and regulations. And the decisions will follow a proper structure, proper procedure. Focus is not only on profit, but it is more towards the public welfare than the profit in public firms. So for example, a private company buys materials to maximize profit, but a government organization may buy materials to serve the people. So the private sector means flexible and profit oriented, whereas the public sector is very highly controlled and welfare oriented. So what are the basic principles of procurement? These are some basic principles of procurement which are very important. First is the right quality. We should always buy correct quality materials. If the quality is low, product fails. And if the quality is too high, the cost increases. So we need to maintain a proper balance. And the secondly, right quantity. We should neither buy too much or too less. The quantity should be enough. There should not be shortage and there should not be wastage. That is buying in right quantity, in right number. And third is right time. We should also buy materials at the correct time. For example, farm products should be brought during harvest when the prices are low. Okay, with some products should be bought at the right time. And the fourth one is right source. A good supplier is very important. It gives quality, They also supply on time. They may also offer some reasonable prices. So picking a good supplier is very important. And then also good relations. Maintain good relations with other departments and suppliers. This is also a very important principle of procurement. And knowledge of new materials. Always learn about new materials, new technology, because this will help in reducing cost and improving the quality. What are the methods of procurement? Now let us see different methods of procurement. First is purchase according to need. We need to only buy materials when needed, and used for irregular items. We don't need to buy unnecessary materials. When something is needed, we just need to buy it. Okay, so we need to purchase according to the need and purchase for future. There will be some regular items which we will keep needing it no matter what. So such items we can buy in advance for regular items. Okay. And the third is the market purchase. We should also purchase when the prices in the market are low. That can result in really good, profits. And speculative purchase. So, for example, if you feel like a certain, product's price is going to increase in the future, in such case, you can, predict it and then buy them in advance, in bulk. When you think that these prices are going to increase in future. So I'll just buy them in a large quantity now itself when the prices are low. Okay, that is called speculative purchase. But there can also be a risk, but it can also result in profit. I mean, your prediction may also be wrong, so there can be risk. But your prediction can also be right. If your prediction is right, which means there will be a huge profit. And there's also contract purchase. Contract purchase means agreement with the supplier for regular supply. Okay. So you'll be having like contract with the supplier and he will be producing it regularly to you. So there will be a stable supply for the organization. And there can also be the fixed prices, which is good for a long term. And then another method is scheduled purchase. Scheduled purchase means purchases are planned based on the production schedule. And we also have different systems of purchasing like tender system, quotation system, buying from same supplier, and spot purchasing. These are some systems of purchasing. So the tender system means it is used by large organizations when suppliers submit bids. Okay. And the quotation system is different suppliers give price quotations. And buying from same supplier means based on the trust and based on the past experience, we can buy from the same supplier. And there is also another system of purchasing called spot purchasing. Spot purchase means immediate purchase from the salesperson, not recommended. It is generally not recommended. Okay. Now let's look into the purchase procedure. Let's look into this step by step. So the step one is purchase requisition. Purchase requisition is when a certain department in the organization it sends a request for materials. That is purchase requisition, means the request for materials from a department in the organization. And the step two is determining quantity. The buyer will decide how much to purchase. There can be various factors which include in this, for example, stock availability. Based on the stock availability, buyer can decide how much to purchase. If the stock is less, he may need more. If the stock is higher, and then he may need less. And based on the consumption rate as well. If people are buying it, a certain finished good a lot, then the buyer also, the organization of firms also need to buy a lot of raw materials, based on the consumption rate also. And also based on the storage space. Storage space is also very necessary because if we buy more than how much storage capacity you can hold, in that case the raw materials can be spoiled, because that's why storage is important, and you should also analyze how much storage capacity you have, and based on that you can buy the raw materials. And also the cost. The step 3 is selecting supplier. Choose best supplier based on the price, quality, and reliability, which is very important. And the step 4 is negotiating price. Negotiating price means to discuss the price, to discuss the terms and the delivery with the supplier. Okay. And the further steps include placing order, means send official purchase order with the details. Step 6 is the cancellation or modification. So this generally is needed when the order may be changed if needed. And the next step is the follow-up to ensure that supplier delivers the materials on the time. And the last step is receipt and inspection. So once the goods are received and checked, if the quality is good, it can be accepted, and if the quality is bad, it can be returned or it can be rejected. So these are the steps of purchasing. Now let's look into the e-procurement. E-procurement means purchasing through electronic methods like the internet. Today, most companies are using online system. Even we are, the common public, we are also ordering everything online now. So the firms are doing same. They are purchasing through electronic methods like internet. So some of the advantages are they can import materials, from a global level, from global reach. And it also internet also makes it possible for the faster communication and lower cost and better information access. For example, companies can order materials online from anywhere in the world. Now let's look into the storage. Storage means keeping materials safe until they are needed. So the place where materials are kept is called as a store or a storeroom, just like how we use it in a regular language. Okay. So the different types of stores are centralized stores, decentralized stores, central store with substores. So some of the important factors in storage are proper location, good arrangement, classification system, and storage equipment. Now let's look into the functions of storekeeping. So the functions of storekeeping are receiving materials, record keeping, safe storage, issuing materials, and coordination. So basically to manage large number of items, we use something called codification. Codification means assigning codes to the material. So, it can make it easier to store a large number of items. And then the classification. So classification means grouping materials into categories like raw materials, supplies, and finished goods. Now let's look into the principles of storage. Some of the important principles of storage are to store safely, to use space efficiently, to protect from damage, to arrange the materials properly, and to ensure easy access. These are some important principles of storage, which is to store safely, to use the space efficiently, to protect the materials from damage, to arrange the materials properly, and to ensure easy access. These are some principles of storage. Now let us understand warehouses. So a warehouse is a modern storage place with proper facilities. So a godown is a traditional storage place without advanced facilities. So the purpose of warehousing is storage, balanced supply and demand, price stability, safe custody, quality preservation, and financial support. And we have various types of warehouses such as private warehouses, public warehouses, bonded, cold storage, etc. Let us understand the distribution. Distribution means movement of materials from store to production or market. So firstly, release of materials. Departments request materials, using indent. Materials are then issued with the proper documents. And then distribution of finished goods happen, means goods are sent to wholesalers, retailers, and customers. Transportation is also very important because it includes roads, rails, shipping, air pipelines. So each mode has its own advantages. For example, railways can be, best for heavy goods. Roads can be flexible and shipping can be economical for long distance. So in this unit, we have learned that procurement is about purchasing. Procurement is about purchasing materials, and storage is about keeping them safely, and the distribution is about delivering them. So all this together form materials management. If these are done properly, costs reduce, efficiency increases, and profits improve. So in the next class, let's look into units 10 and 11. Bye, everyone.